Oh, we on?
Yeah, go ahead and do your thing. Go ahead and do your thing that you normally do. Go ahead and start tagging.
All right. So, so everybody's still in a uproar in Philly.
I mean, they kind of calmed it down, but they ain't gonna do nothing but get kind of crazy. You know, it's about to get crazy in the next 2 weeks.
Right.
Shit, I thought I tagged myself into this.
It says with Brian and Alfonso.
Oh, here they go again.
Who?
Fuck it. Nah, because it's not showing up on my end. But oh well. We're gonna get into it, y'all.
All right.
History lesson. I mean, hopefully it's a history lesson. So I hope it's something. Well, I hope we learn something new from this one. So we gonna get into it though.
All right. So you good to go?
Yeah, let's go this. Let's do this, man. I mean, tell the kick in. Tuck.
All right. What's up, Facebook family? Huh?
So Tuck gonna jump in. Don't forget he at
You
work.
said, oh, okay, okay. Okay, no doubt. What's up, Facebook family? We back once again. Three-headed monster. Um, doing our Friday edition of the I guess I can elaborate on what we're doing. We got a little time for Ted to come in. This is kind of like open comment, open discussion, like you were sitting at the barber shop and we were talking about a subject. It kind of free flows. It's very organic, what we talk about. Um, but everything that we say is always our opinions, our thoughts. Um, please do not believe anything that we tell you. Please go and research it for yourself. Find the truth for yourself. Come back. Let's talk about it. Let's politic. Let's build. Let's go forward. Um, Today's subject is pretty interesting. We're going to talk about the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment um, and everything that surrounds it, I hope. Um, so let's get started. What's up, B?
Yo, what's good? What's good, y'all? Brother Brian, aka that Silverback. Um, hopefully we doing something. We trying to do, calm down because this current, whatever you want to call it, charade of election um, that just came down. Um, some people just, this might dictate some people's lives, but at the same time, in Philly, I mean, it is what it is. Everybody was curious about the uproar here, and everybody have to understand is, we getting tired of certain situations constantly keep happening, and sometimes we have to find why we're not protected or why we're not, you know, to understand what's going on. So I really wanted to, we gonna hit some of these things that we think we know, but we let other people tell us and not really study for ourselves. Um, First one is the Civil Rights of 1866, which I'm gonna break it down to you. The Civil Rights of 1866 was the first United States federal law to define citizenship and affirm that all citizens are equal and protected by law. It may mainly extends in the wake of the American Civil War to protect the civil rights of persons of African descent born in or brought to the United States of America. That last part that I don't like is that was brought to the United States. Mm.
Okay.
Or the
Why
African.
don't you like it?
No, because I mean, as we studied more and more, and found out that a lot of us, our ancestors was already here. Our ancestors was the native, Aborigines that was here. That was captured. Not saying we was captured, but our land was taken away from us. A lot,
True.
a lot of shady deals went bad, and you know, we lost our country. 1776 is, the last stronghold, and when we lost, everybody keeps thinking that the English was already here ruling, and no, they wasn't. But at the same time, we have a civil war. We might have to break down what really happened in the Civil War and not what we was taught about the Civil War, because somehow, some way, everything that we was taught is not actually true.
Mm.
But at the same time, we got to jump into it, and a lot of people have to know. That's why you have to study for yourself, because if you don't, well, you tend to be a clone and just be
Right.
saying that a lot of stuff that we're saying is not true. But they had to put this into effect because after the Emancipation Proclamation of 1865, when they said Lincoln freed the slaves, um, because it is more than that. It was just they just couldn't control us. We
Right.
you can only imprison us so much, and then we fight. And I think that's what they're scared of now, is we're fighting so much that the fact is they're scared that we're about to revolutionize again. Because I feel like part of the Civil War is us fighting and fighting to get ourselves free, um, free from the tyranny,
Right.
under the United States control, because we are indigenous to the land of America, not the United States. So go ahead, jump in on that.
Right. I'm just doing the sharing thing, but I got you.
For some reason, it ain't popping up on us, man. Unless they trying to block us again. It ain't the first time they done did it.
I know that's right.
No, for no, what I'm.
Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Still, it's not showing. I don't care. It's not actually. If I go to your page, it still won't even show it. So
Really?
yeah,
Like I
but
said, it's got you on my page. But while we're doing this, while we're discussing, if anybody wants to leave some questions or make comments, feel free. Like I said, this is an open discussion. Um, we don't have all the answers, but we're working, to put it all together. Um, it's interesting, man. First, let's put it all into context,
yeah,
because that's the problem. Like, we'll talk about Civil War, we'll talk about um, uh, civil rights, but we never put it into context. What's going on around it that
mhm,
makes it what it is? You only learn about that event. Okay, so if you look at prior to European countries coming to the Americas, you had already spoke on the indigenous people that were here in the Americas, not just those what are classified as black, um, but you did have the those of Mongolian descent also, but the majority was what you call so-called blacks. So when you have these other countries coming into occupied land that's already occupied by people, you have to bring, if you don't have an agreement to be there, then you have to come up with a strategy to take the land. And this is what happened during this strategy of taking the land. It's not just a simple fact of, well, they had slaves, let's free the slaves and let them amongst the people. No, you're letting back amongst the people, the original owners of the land.
Facts.
So you have to find a way to legally keep them from claiming their lands again. So you have to detach voting rights. Because think about it, if a small patch or pocket of former, well, I want to call them former slaves, of indigenous people were together, what if they pass laws to get indigenous rights back to the people? And then, you know, herein lies a big problem. And so you had to control that. And so the way to control that is by not making them citizens of the United States. As long as they're not citizens of the United States, then they have no power to control anything. Here's one of the talking points. Something you've heard all your life, but it was really a big mistake. The way it was taught, the way it was learned by you. They told you were 3/5 of a person. That's never was true. They never said that. They never said you were 3/5 of a person. It was never in law that you were 3/5 of a person. What had happened is when they were going to free slaves or free these blacks, that these people actually became persons. They didn't become citizens, but they became persons, right? And so what the Democrats was wanting to do was use these people as part of a way to gain more seats in the House, because that's done by population. And so the Great Compromise was about the government said, you can use them. You know, if y'all come into the union, you can use the black people, but you can only use them as 3/5. Like if you got a population of 50,000, well, you can only use 30,000 of the votes. You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And so it wasn't that you were 3/5 human. That's a myth that got run. Nah, it was only it was about voting rights. It was about power moves. Something that we don't really understand. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that as we go on.
No, it was a big thing of the census that had came out. So especially the census started in 1780, and every 10 years everything after that. But at the same time, when you put out, which we was considered freemen at the time, after we was free from the free from the so-called slavery.
During Reconstruction.
During the beginning of Reconstruction. Now you start to understand why the Reconstruction became Reconstruction, because something happened, because now the South is like, nah, man, we can't treat these people, so you have black codes now. So your white people have their own rights. Your black people have a set of rights. So in other words, you still was not considered equal. So what happens is you have we always been fighting for.
Hold on, B. Explain that what you just said. Explain that. Separate. They have rights and we have rights. Explain that.
No, because you have when the black code was never intended, because the South still never took it and never, when you free, because I mean what they're saying is the majority of the people that was enslaved was coming from the south of the Mason-Dixon line. So we're looking at below Virginia all the way down to Florida, Texas, and so on and so on. So now we have a problem, because if you freed all these people, now the mindset of they're going to do to us what we did to them, because at the same time, we literally we outpopulated, the European people, white people, so to say. So now you have a fear. Now you have to say, okay, we need to still find a way to keep our foot on their neck. So we give them certain rights. So they still not at that level of white, so they are considered black. So we never was here. We never was here in the United States. They It's a fear that they have. So they put out black codes. So now what you have to do is you got these black codes, which you got to understand is the Civil Rights Act of 1866 didn't protect us from nothing. You have riots going on. That's a lot of thing after you really one of the first riots that actually happened was in Memphis because the police brutality was going down. Y'all got to understand that shit ain't just started in the 60s. This has been going all the way back to this, the late 1900s. It's been going on that they always had a problem with us being equal to them psychologically. So you have to, what can we do? What can we do? So the federal government has to put into amendment. So this is where the 14th Amendment comes into play. They had to put that in because you have to protect the rights of these free men that we have put in there. Because you got to realize we're still not citizens. We just free. We just free to be who we want to be in this country. We was never considered citizens. So now you have to understand, now this is where the 14th Amendment kicks into play. Understanding that the 14th Amendment comes maybe a year, couple years after yeah, you can say it's a year. So they brought into the 14th Amendment, which is all persons born or naturalization in the United States are subject to the jurisdiction, therefore are citizens of the United States, United States, where then they reside. No state shall make or enforce any laws which shall abridge the privilege and immunities of the citizens of the United States, nor shall the state, deprive any liberty, life, liberty, or property without the due process of law, nor deny any persons within the jurisdictions their equal protections of law.
Right.
Ooh. So that's when you become citizens.
I mean,
because everybody thinks it was free.
Well, now see,
I said by law.
Read it.
I said by
No,
law.
no. Listen to me. You have to read it and understand it, right?
Yeah, there's three parts in it.
So let's go
three
back.
parts in this. Let's dissect it. Let's dissect it. Go ahead. I know where you're going, but go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
So let's go back to the 13th Amendment first.
Oh, my bad. Oh, I forgot about that.
No. You got that on tap?
You need me to
read it? Yeah, read that.
All right,
read the 13th Amendment.
All right,
and then we'll go back to the 14th Amendment, but you got to read the 13th first. Because the 13th Amendment was used by Abraham Lincoln to actually get elected. During that election, because the Emancipation Proclamation never freed the slaves.
What are you doing, section 1 or section 2? Oh, let's do section 1. Right. And I said there's 2 sections to it.
Yeah.
Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crimes whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Neither slave nor involuntary servitude shall be. In other words, you killed slavery.
Did they?
Or indentured servants.
Did they?
Why would you put indentured servitude in there?
Now, this is the more interesting, or I don't know if it's say more interesting, but the interesting word in that whole thing was involuntary.
Yes, that's what I said.
Involuntary, right?
Hmm.
I want you to keep that in. I need you to keep that in mind. Involuntary servitude, right? So, with the 13th Amendment, what happened was is since Emancipation Proclamation didn't get rid of slavery, because why? You understand why? It's
Go ahead.
because the Union, when the Union said that we're going to free slaves, right? Well, at that time that they had written the Emancipation Proclamation, the South had already seceded from the Union or the United States.
Hmm.
So that proclamation didn't mean anything to the South. That was the whole point of the war. So
From what
so
they
that's
said.
why it didn't free the slaves, right? So the 13th Amendment, which was the last thing that Lincoln done before he was assassinated. Um, well, he didn't really do it himself. It is a proxy of the government. Um,
Yeah, Congress passed that law.
right, but he's actually the only president that ever signed an amendment, and he signed that, and then a few weeks later got killed. But the interesting thing is when you read it, it says about if you convict a crime that you're still subject to being a slave, and that
Prison.
right. So that's the prison system of the day. But here's the interesting thing: when you have the 14th Amendment is about making you a citizen, and
Yeah.
it's about making the so-called black a citizen of the United States, right? It tells you that you are a person. So the 14th Amendment really made you a person, not a citizen. When you read it at the beginning, it tells you persons born uh, in the United States, or have the uh, ability to become citizens. But what do you have to do? You have to subjugate yourself to the jurisdiction of the United States. So this is where voluntary servitude comes into play.
You're cooking now. You're
So
cooking
you
now.
have to be you have to accept servitude to the United States to become a citizen. If you do not, then you cannot be a citizen. Now, a lot of people like to bring up the Dred Scott case, and it's not the Dred Scott cases. If you want to look it up, it's Dred Scott versus Sanford, um, and that was actually in 1857, prior to the Civil War, which started in 1861. Um, but in that case, just a quick synopsis of the case. He was owned by a man in Missouri. So they went from Missouri west to, I think it was Illinois or somewhere west of Missouri. And actually, slavery was illegal in those territories, west of the Union. So he tried to bring him back to Missouri. And so in his case, what he said is that since he went out of uh, Missouri and into Illinois or wherever it was and came back, he was a free man when he went into that territory. So he was not a slave when he was brought back. And so that's when they made the decision that no African born person can be a citizen of the United States. You hear what I said? African born. So it was specific in saying that. It didn't say any black person. It didn't say anybody that considers themselves a dark skinned Indian. It said any African born person cannot be a citizen of the United States. And that's the whole legal knowledge that they try to get in calling yourself an African American, because it doesn't matter if you have 1/8 African in you, you're considered a descendant of Africans. And so getting back to the 14th Amendment, that was all about, you had to accept a different kind of servitude to become a citizen. And if you accepted that servitude, then you're still not a citizen of the United States.
Which is interesting because now you got to understand it is something that you broke it down. What were we before? Once this whole slavery movement was over, we considered freemen. So what are we connected to? You know what I'm saying? If we
Right.
were property, if they teach us that we was property. In other words, we was trying to get back to what we were. But
Right. That's the whole point, B. Nobody understands what we were, and nobody ever clarifies what we were. So we always start back at what?
slavery.
Slavery. Because when you use the term freeman, we were freemen, even using those terms like that is disruptive to the mind. And I'll tell you why. The whole point of being a citizen of the United States, right? Well, let's break down what being the United States is. You always talk about the corporation of the United States, right?
Yeah.
Which was put together in the Constitution. So what does that really mean? It means that a whole bunch of European countries come to the United States, right? Or they came to this territory, and they created states, right? So each state is in essence a country to itself. That's even today.
We see
Every
it.
state, huh?
We see it. This past
But
election
people
just shows it.
see it, but you don't understand it.
Yeah.
Every state is a country. That's why it's called the United States. There's not one thing. It's 50 different things that make this controlled by one entity. So you have 50 little countries that's controlled by one entity, right? So, and people don't understand it. Here's how you can figure it out real quick. Where's your driver's license issued?
At the DMV.
No, where's it at? Where's it at? For where?
Department of Recreation. Department of.
No, it's for Philadelphia, right?
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh no, PA, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. So it's for Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, it don't matter yeah.
So if you have driving license, why is it not just driving license anywhere in America? Why does it have to be issued by the state that you live in? Because if it's one country, then it should be a U.S. license, right?
No. I agree with you.
But no, I'm saying we're explaining for the people.
Yeah.
So you have each state has its own laws. The laws that we call federal can only be enacted upon anything if only all the states agree, per the Constitution, right? So if we have, it's crazy, man. We have to look at it. So since we're all little countries, that means to be a citizen, you are sovereign, right? Because when they left England or left Europe, it was because they had a king over them, right? And they was in this feudal system, and they had to serve the king. Everybody had to serve the king or the queen, right? So when they came to this new territory, they said, we're not serving a king. We're all sovereign.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why it's we the people. We all make the decision. Right? So that's the point that we hadn't been taught. That's the point that we don't understand. If we're citizens, we're sovereign. And so we shouldn't be treated the way we're being treated. But because we don't become citizens, then they don't treat you the same. You don't have those same inalienable rights because you're not a citizen in their eye.
In other words, you're not part of their club.
Yeah, there you go. You're not part of the club.
No. You made an interesting point because everybody needs to understand and the reason why I'm saying this because of this past election. Did y'all not notice it was from state to state?
Right.
And everybody has to understand is It's 50 states controlled by one district of Columbia.
Right. Which was agreed upon in the Constitution.
Because most people got to understand the first capital of the so-called 13 colonies was Philadelphia, and then it moved. And everybody has to understand is DC is a sovereign nation.
Right.
It's not part of Virginia. It's not part of Maryland. It's its own. So it's like the Vatican.
It's not part of the United States.
And it's controlled by that. So now you have to understand that these laws is put into place, but it's federal. You notice that federal don't really jump into, local states. That's why when we were listening to 45, he was telling the states, "Oh, you better do this, you better do that," and the states is like,
right.
"Man, we ain't got to listen to your shit."
Only to what we agreed to.
Now you have to understand now why, because
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll be right back. Go ahead.
Okay, states represent their own. So now when we have this, we notice that there's no protection for all these freedmen. There's no protection for us people of indigenous, colored, Negro, African American, which that don't come into play until 1983 with Jesse Jackson. So now you have to understand the starting of their Reconstruction. Now we have to, wait a minute, we have to make some changes because now we're allowing people of color to be citizens to our country now, or to our nation, or to our club. And a lot of people have to understand that because a lot of people just look at it like, oh, we're freed and no, you still didn't have you had the right to vote as a citizen, but you wasn't protected at all to do anything. So you subjugated to get killed no matter what, because a lot of people.
Get back with the video.
I got you. I knew you was gonna say it. So we have to understand it. There's no protection, local level. No protection. So the federal, yeah, because a lot of people got to understand, the feds can put out a mandate like crazy. That don't mean, but that's why you have Congress and you have representatives from each state in these particular or even in the Senate. So
I didn't hear what you said about voting.
Oh, you still didn't have the right to vote.
You said we didn't have the right to vote?
This is after the Civil War. No, we didn't really. I mean, once you became citizen, you had the right to vote. But right. Black laws and Jim Crow laws came so big that there was so many. They put too many roadblocks, and the only thing that the 14th Amendment is actually a lot of people have to understand. Byron Wright? Who just went to the Supreme Court? I know his name was Byron. I don't forget what his last name was. When he went to Supreme Court after he won.
Byron.
Yeah, after he won the state by state he won.
Yeah.
He was like, no, we're going to keep pushing this because he wanted to sue. It was not Comcast. It was Comcast.
I think so.
Comcast for, his civil rights because they didn't treat him as equal. And they had to go back and then they used the laws of 1866, the Civil Rights Law of 1866. Because I never heard of that. And I was like, damn, I never heard of the law of 1866.
Right.
Civil Rights Law. So then when you study it, you'd be like, oh, so it was a Civil Rights Act already in the play. But it was so bland that there was so many loopholes in it that, in other words, they can do anything. They can do anything they wanted to us at that time. They got away with it.
All right. Yeah. So I think, like I said, we put it in the context. So because we can talk about certain things and we don't understand that there's the time period that all that took place or that it was over. So when you talk about the end of the Civil War, right?
Mhm.
You talk about Reconstruction. Um, it's called Reconstruction not because they were rebuilding the United States, but because at that time the South was still acting a fool, like you was talking about with the riots, right?
Mhm.
So what did the North do? The North occupied the South. They occupied the South for about 10 years. It was from 1867 to 1877. And during this time, this is when blacks did vote because they put a lot of people in office. They even had a black governor, black mayors. Um,
Mississippi was.
right,
Oh, they hated that in Mississippi.
right. And
Oh,
because why? Because the army, was allowing all this to take place. They were allowing this free range of people to, and so that's when the South, made their deal to reintegrate themselves into the Union properly, right? But when they done that, this is you were talking about the black codes. Uh, they could vote, but they made laws, like little laws, like within the state, like what we talk about, uh, like to where it made it harder for black people to vote. That's when
voter suppression. Voter suppression.
they suppressed the vote. But after that Reconstruction, that 77, it got real bad. This is when you see Jim Crow take over, these Jim Crow laws. And the reason why they call it Jim Crow laws, well, we won't go into Jim Crow. We'll talk about that another day. But the reason why they were enacted was because you did have the right to vote. And so they created things like a poll tax where it costs for you to vote, or you had to
Literacy.
do a test, a written test, to show that you were intelligent enough to vote, right? The interesting thing is that those people that were not what they consider black or white, they didn't have to take the test or they didn't have to pay the toll tax because what they had was a grandfather clause. If your grandfather voted, then you can vote.
And a lot of them probably wouldn't have passed that test anyway because they were
Right.
illiterate themselves.
So they were illiterate. Yeah. And that was the whole point of having the grandfather clause, is to exclude them from having to take the test or having to pay the tax. So the reason why we wasn't voting is not because we didn't have the right to vote. It was because intimidation, poll tax, uh, reading or intelligence tests, all these different things that were roadblocks for us voting. Because if we could vote, then you could change your situation. And so, like I said, Jim Crow went on and on. Oh, another, the Civil Rights Act of 1875. Now that was what took out segregation in the South. And when you were talking about they had rights, we had rights. Well, see, it was because of this act that the South said, well, if you're gonna be treated equal, but you're gonna have to be separate but equal. You're gonna have your own bathrooms, colored bathrooms. If you ride on the bus, you got a colored section. If you ride on the train, there's a colored car. Yeah, you get the same things that we do, but they're not going to be of the same standard. And they're not going to be in the same place as ours.
True. I pulled it up. It's the Civil Rights Act of 1875.
Yeah.
And it is sometimes called the Enforcement Act or the Force Act of the United States Federal Law Interact during the Reconstruction era in response to civil rights violations against African Americans, which we wasn't African Americans at that time. We was considered people of color.
Yeah, colors.
Colors. Because they grouped the Native Americans, which was us, indigenous, the Africans. So anybody that had this or had one, like you said, 1/8 any color, color of blacks, you would consider black color no matter what. So a lot of indigenous free men lost their civil rights under the United States. Everybody has to understand is under the United States, which I feel like we need to do another thing of why this revolutionary world really, really happened.
Right.
These dudes got a lot greedy. They got really, really greedy. But go ahead, man. Go ahead. Because that enforcement act was to, why is they putting that into play? Why is it that, if we
Take
was,
your tone.
no, no, no. Oh shit, my bad. Let me get my man in. Let me get my man in. Let me get my man in here.
Get
But no,
tutted.
no, but at the same time, we have to understand is why is it that they putting this into play? Why is it that they got to keep, laws? I can't get him? Why is he chatting?
Who?
No, I keep putting him in. All right, my bad, my bad. I'm sorry, y'all. I gotta get my brother in. I gotta get my other brother in.
Yeah.
But we have to understand is you don't keep putting laws into place if we so-called free. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
but
saying?
I mean that's the whole point. When you accepting that terminology, that's how the law works. Whatever terminology you accept, then that's the standard that you held by. What's up, Tut?
What's up, Tut?
Hey, peace. How y'all doing? How y'all doing?
What's good?
Yeah, we doing a deep history lesson, dude. We already up to the Civil Rights Act of 1876, the Enforcement Act.
Just said it.
Ah,
75, my bad,
right,
75. So we
right.
try to explain to people when they keep saying the 14th Amendment was the most important amendment and it joined us together. No, you didn't. You made us join it was our ancestors made a choice. Either quit being terrorized by y'all and just join the club. Basically,
Yeah,
that's what it was. So
yeah, yeah.
because it's a lot going on. You we free to roam around, but think about it. If Trump said I could shoot somebody in, Fifth Avenue, this is what they was doing.
Yeah.
This is what they was really doing. I can kill you, and at the time, you couldn't. What was against? What was I forgot what law it was that you couldn't testify against a white person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, that was mostly in the South because, like I said, those are the rules, and if you accepted the rules, you got to play by them.
We just
Right.
didn't know that we didn't know they had a loaded deck. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But actually, the 14th Amendment, it actually gives us a confirmation of how we are not citizens here in America. Because we don't have any rights, as far as like as a citizen. Because as a citizen, they can't enforce laws on you. You know what I'm saying? That would take away your privileges, your liberty, your pursuit of happiness as a citizen. And the way that black people are murdered and killed is a confirmation that, you guys are not welcome here. You guys are not citizens. You're not part of the whole constitutional structure. You know what I'm saying? Your only position in this constitutional structure is just to be to be in the poverty level and take the trampling feet of everyone around you.
Yeah, we need you to do our dirty work. We need you to do, like I said, be a servant. We still under servitude, and we just don't realize it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you gonna say something, Tut?
Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, he just confirmed it. You know what I'm saying? Because it says, basically in the 14th Amendment that it's supposed to include former slaves, but as you see, we don't get equal protection of the law. And even in their due process, you know what I'm saying? They still play us with legalities and the litigation of understanding the terminologies in the court system. Like
Exactly.
even the Breonna Taylor case, you know, this guy he didn't even go to court for murder. You know
That's
what I'm
why
saying?
that's why everybody has to understand when it comes to federal, they do not fuck with local laws. Local, every state do
Well,
what the hell they
they
want to
can't.
do.
They can't. They can't. They can't supersede state level law. That's the whole Constitution.
Right.
You know, the United States government, or what you call the Fed, can only have the power that's granted to them by the state.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
see, here's the thing that what Ted was talking about, just to make it a little bit clearer, is prior to the 13th, 14th Amendment, what they called so-called blacks, they were property, strictly property, right? So what the 14th Amendment done is took the status of being property away from you and made you a person. It didn't make you a citizen. It made you a person. That's why
Right.
it's persons born
Right.
in the United States have the right to become citizen, but they have to follow the jurisdiction of the United States.
Oh,
So
they
Right.
that,
constantly put that
so
in there.
that
They put
means
that in there for a reason.
not involuntary servitude, it's voluntary. You have to voluntarily submit yourself to the United States to become a citizen.
Right. Right.
And if you haven't done those qualifications, then you're not a citizen. And so that right of pursuit of happiness and all those things, they're not afforded to you.
That's why
Right.
you
And
got to be
even
forced to go to school. We need to indoctrinate.
yeah, and even like from the 13th Amendment, even the privilege of being a person is taken away once you commit a criminal
Right,
offense.
right. That is true.
So it's
I
kind of,
think, not to cut you out, B, but I think what we miss is the trip over here for them, right? We keep forgetting the trip over for them. When they were coming, when they were on them boats, and they were putting this master plan together, they had the Pope's backing to say, any people that you find, obviously they're not going to be European Christians. So find these people, they're all savages, and you have the right to subjugate these people and do anything that it takes to keep them subjugated and to always keep them less than human. This was their instructions. So those instructions were never changed. I don't see one place where the Pope sent a letter that says belay that order. I know everything
you
that
know
I
what?
told y'all
They
about.
might have ended slavery in England and actually, in Europe, but that wasn't under the popes. That wasn't under a religious flag.
No, that was the government. That was a governmental thing.
But our government hasn't. That's
Right.
why the shit that's constantly still happening us to today. That's why a lot of people need to start understanding some of these amendments. Think about it. They didn't really have an issue until they brought the Civil Rights Act. So after the Civil War was put into play, it was no laws for anybody of color. In other words,
Yeah,
we didn't have to deal with this problem. But
that's
once
those
you did
clauses.
open that floodgate, that's why the Reconstruction had to be put in place. We got
Yeah,
to
that's
fix
those
that.
clauses. They got 3 clauses in the 14th Amendment, and they all deal with the due process and the citizenship, and that all came after what the civil rights was 1860 something. I can't remember the exact
66.
date, but yeah, that was after the civil rights. 66. Yeah. And those clauses were to try to ratify and basically smack you with baby powders instead of a handful of shit.
Oh, pimp slap.
But I mean,
You know what's
hit it on.
interesting?
You hit it head on though.
Yeah. I mean, you used a good word, Ted, when you said due process, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, people don't understand the law. Okay, so you take the Miranda rights, right? You have to be read your rights.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Do you know why that even come about? It wasn't because they didn't read the rights to them, and it wasn't acknowledged because, you know, they tell you when you're in court, ignorance is not a defense of the law, right?
Uh-huh.
Right.
So the problem was that person that got arrested, they could hold them as long, they couldn't get due process.
Right.
Right. So they sued for due process within the state, not at a federal level. It was
Right.
within the state. And they said that by the Constitution, that state didn't give us due process.
They don't give you due process in the state. That's why, you know, Benny Siegel, he made it, you know, state property. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, you are property of that state. You're not property of the government. Once you commit a criminal offense, you're property of that state. You know, and I think I remember watching something. I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it's that TV show, Black as Fuck. You know, but I started watching that. I got up on that. But I think, you know, they made reference to it like either you're gonna be a slave and work for free, or you're gonna go to jail and work for free.
And a lot of people got to understand that's why the Social Security Act came into play, because your child is subjugated under the state. They award it to the state once you sign that documentation for the Social Security number.
That's right.
My bad. Am I right? I said it right? Word of the state. Yeah.
Now you're not awarded to the state, a ward of the state.
A ward. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So in other words, guess who owns your child now? It's not you, because you just gave it up by giving them a Social Security card. Everybody have to understand, though, your numbers on the stock exchange.
Hey, you know how you can prove that real quick?
How?
If you don't have a will, who gets your stuff?
Right.
Yeah.
Right there. Probate court making a link.
Who gets your stuff?
Probate court, you ain't got no relatives, you ain't got a will after nobody. Probate court will say, but look, ain't nobody claimed this yet. They just throw this to the state.
Right. This is ours anyway.
Yeah.
Damn,
and
that's a good point.
A lot of families, this is one thing that hurts the Black community, is that a lot of families are not aware of these situations. So in death, they don't have things, you know, parents haven't made wills, they don't have things set up. So families lose what little bit they got in the death process if they're not prepared for death, if they're not aware of death and knowing how to handle it. The probate court, they take all of that. So, and even in the process of waiting for that, you're making families suffer for something, you know. That so if you don't have that will, you know, your family gonna be in stalemate for 3 to 6 months easy.
And see, it's crazy because think about what you're saying. So the state says, give it to me. But all the will is saying is that I'm passing what the state has to the next person.
Right.
Right. And they had to do the same process.
Right.
And so when you pass it, they make you pay a state tax.
Right. Yep.
You know, it's my stuff. I can't give it to my family without the state having to take a piece of it.
And even if you sell it to them for $1, you still got to pay a tax on that dollar.
You still got to pay a tax on it.
I mean, this is what a lot of people have to understand, that you're going to pay. You never own your house. You never own the land that your house is on.
Never own anything.
You don't never own your car, because every year you have to pay. You never own your car. You still have to pay.
Why?
Because you have to pay a tax.
No, because slaves can't own property.
Exactly. Exactly. So we're still slaves. We're still slaves. I mean,
that's not just Black people now. You need to open up your eyes. Slaves can't own property.
Right.
That's why everybody.
I never looked at it like that, dude. Boy, never looked at it like that.
Oh, but I hate to say this a lot, but you know, I come from the streets. You know, I had one brother. You know, he made a post today on Facebook saying how proud a lot of us brothers who was heavy in them streets, how we've grown up and now we're civilized a lot more and working jobs and owning businesses and stuff. You know, we never, you know, but the dope game is no different than what I interact with in the corporate world. You know what I mean? It's the same regulations, same rules, you know.
Same
So
rules.
It
yeah,
was tax free though. They was only tax free.
Yeah, yeah. And so like another one of my homeboys, he was like, he was mad at the other dope boys who don't got to go to work. And he was like, man, I can't stand that, man. You know, they get to sit around, they don't get to have to go to work. You know, I'm like, well, why are you mad at them though? Because actually they as free as they can be, kind of. You know, it may come with a risk of being thrown in jail or whatever, but they're free. We sitting here, we got to go to work. We on the time schedule. They force us to be at places at certain times. You know, on the block, I was free. You know what I'm saying? It was able to do what I want to do. I was rest when I want to. I wasn't forced to wake up and be somewhere. You know, that money made me jump, but but I mean, often we look at the minute things that we take for granted that we're actually suffering from slavery chain links, you know, having to work a job for little to no pay. You know, in the organizational structure, the higher ups make all the money while the people, the subordinates, they work the hardest, and the company would fall if it wasn't for them. They get paid the least, you know. So the whole structure and concept is all about domination. It's all about trampling on you so I can stand taller. And you know, capitalism, yeah, capitalism at its finest. Capitalism is control of spatial gains of land and people. You know what I'm saying? So the owners, the forefront pioneers of capitalism, they want your body. They want your body to use so they can get rich. And you know, the wealth, you know, one thing in business that I did study and I learned, you know, like the first thing in business, the first mistake most people make is thinking about competition. So you think about competition, you automatically fail. And that's to say that there is so much money in the world that there's enough for everybody. And often we look at, you know, from a working standpoint, we look at it like, you know, we're working, we're making pennies on the dollar when really there's enough wealth for everybody.
And nobody should be homeless and nobody should be going without eating. But
let me say this, B.
There's always going to be a poverty level. There's always going to be
capitalism. It has to be.
Yeah, right. The capitalism always has to be. So the thing is, who is that footstool? Right now it's us. Next, if we get our money to footstool, it's going to be somebody else being trampled on. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's one thing about the black man and our civilization that we had. We didn't have the foot trampled on a lot of people as, you know, as bad. You know what I mean? Because there's going to be people that get trampled over. Yes, but it wasn't as bad. It don't have to be such a wide group. Y'all pardon me for a second.
Go ahead, Jerome.
Oh, well, I'll wait till Tut get back to make that point. Go ahead.
Man, you don't know how long Tut might be doing. Don't forget where he at.
Right. Go ahead and do your thing, though.
No, I get back to it. He was in the middle of saying something. Then he back. Go ahead, then.
Now, what I was gonna say is, when Tut was comparing the dope game to regular business, right? Really, it's the same thing, because when you get arrested, what are you being arrested for? You're actually being arrested for tax evasion. You know, that's really what you're being arrested for. And it's not easy. And you wonder why people at the top levels don't get arrested, because they pay their taxes, they got their license.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're licensed to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
You at a lower level, because you don't understand the game, you're getting caught up in tax evasions. Why you think they make you pay fines?
Hey, if I'd have knew what I knew now, man, I'd have trademarked my dope back in the day.
Right. Because you didn't have a license. That's why it's called a controlled substance.
Right.
You know, you have a controlled substance. It's not controlled by you. It's controlled by somebody, though.
Right.
They ain't getting their piece of the pie.
Right. Right.
Mafia status.
But anyway, we ain't gonna go into the dope.
No. Because I mean, a lot of us have to understand. I mean, sometimes you got to keep breaking it down because that's why I tell everybody, this ain't no freedom. This ain't a democracy. You're not free. You're not free to do anything that you want to do here. Not go to work and guarantee you what's going to happen. You're gonna be asking for the government to help you within some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Oh, and also too, I didn't mean to cut you off, B. You finished with that.
No. I'm finished.
One thing too, also, like the 14th Amendment that we're speaking about, the 14th Amendment. I think it's also in one of those clauses in there or something. I remember that if you rebel against the government, you can't hold a public office seat.
Section 3.
Right.
So, right, like, is that the Jesus clause? Ha! Because, like, because look at this, you know what I'm saying? If you're upset, that's what the independence was founded on. It was people was upset with the way they were living and the government that they were living in, and they filed the independence, right? Filed for the independence. So, how are you gonna make an amendment and prohibit someone who's not liking the way things are set up and structured and wants to get in a seat to change it, and you're prohibiting them?
Right. Here's another thing too. It's understanding language. You know, we talk about this all the time. You need to understand words. You need to understand what they mean, right? So they tell you the pursuit of happiness and liberty for all, right? Brian, you're in the military, correct?
Yeah.
What is liberty?
Oh, when we get
Liberty is autonomy.
No, I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying, from the military sense, what is being on liberty?
I guess it's called freedom, fighting for freedom.
No. Like when they give you a break, you're on liberty.
When you be like free to go do what you want to do, be like, oh my God.
Now, see, that's the thing. You're not free. You're not free. You're on liberty. So liberty means what you're allowed to do.
Allowed.
Right.
So how are you a free person, but you have
I gotta
get permission. I gotta get permission.
Liberties. You're only given liberties in the United States. You're not free. Nowhere in the Constitution did say they made you free. It said you can have liberties and you can pursue happiness while we give you these liberties.
And I think that's why I feel like we hitting the 14th Amendment to show where what we thought we was doing the right thing, and we still not out of the slavery mind. Now, everybody said we can't get out of the slavery mindset.
How can you?
We're still in it.
I can't. See, like, let's say you were in a house, right? And you were born in this house, and the person that was over you, older than you, that run the house, and they always told you you're stupid, even though you read books every day, different books every day, but they told you were stupid. You're stupid. You're stupid. You're stupid. So psychologically, in your mind, no matter how many books you read, subconsciously you think you're stupid. And and this is the United States. No matter how much freedom we get, we're always made to think that we're second class. And so subconsciously, Black people think they're second class. I don't care how conscious they talk, how woke they talk. Subconsciously, you think you're second class. If not, you wouldn't be fighting to be equal. That makes no sense. You're already equal. You know, why are you fighting to be equal?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So subconsciously, something inside of you is telling you you need to fight for your rights. You need to fight to be equal. No, why? You were born equal. You were born sovereign. But you have no understanding of that because you live in a country where you psychologically, everything that you see bombards you with being inferior.
Facts, facts. Which a lot of people got to understand when we think about the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Nobody never thought about the 15th Amendment, which is the right for citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or underbred by the United States or by any state account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude.
Listen, the 15th Amendment, you know, we always talk about Susan B. Anthony, right? And how she fought for women's rights, right?
Mm-hmm.
But nobody ever talks about she fought against the 15th Amendment because the 15th Amendment was for black men. She didn't want black men to have to vote if she couldn't vote.
Yep, because the women's that they didn't get the right to vote to what, 1930?
She got a quarter. Wasn't she on a quarter or $1 or something?
Yeah, so
that woman was a racist.
So a lot of people don't understand women didn't get the right to vote till like 1930s.
Huh?
They didn't. Was it the 1930s, 1920s?
Are you talking about women's?
Yeah.
All women. That's 1920. But women could actually vote prior to that if they were landowners. They had to be major landowners, and it wasn't like that'd be a lot. So they didn't have. So they would want all women to have the right to vote.
Well, certain ones, but not all.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
No, because a lot of people have to understand these amendments and understand how the Constitution made amendments to somewhat try to show that we're trying to improve. We trying to make all these people here a citizen. The citizen, being a citizen of the United States is, I understand when a lot of people come over, it's like, why y'all come here? Oh, because of, have a great opportunity. Well, I was like, man, in the United States ain't what y'all think it is. If you free before you come into here.
But you know what's interesting, B?
Mm-hmm.
But when they come to the United States, they're actually being naturalized and made citizens. So they do have those rights. You see what I'm saying? And it is better for them than it is for us.
Some countries. Some.
I'm talking about anybody that comes over and is made a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
When have you been naturalized? It said the 13th Amendment said you were supposed to be naturalized when you were born.
And they still can do what the hell they want to do to me no matter what and get away with it. That's why a lot of people have to understand why they get away with what they get away with on the local and state level. Now, if the federal government...
We talk about the most important part of voting is it. But we don't take advantage of the state level.
Right. And everybody's critical on the presidential election when the president ain't got no jurisdiction. Your state level is more important. The people you voting in for governor, mayor, city council representative, you know what I'm saying? They're the ones that's going to impact you the most. And if you live in a state that has a certain, y'all know how it is in the South. In the South is a different way of living than it is up north. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
Right.
I'm still quarantined up here.
A word?
It's a word.
Hey,
you got to understand this. Understand this, and this is what happened today. 45 come out, say, this virus, the vaccine, no cure, but we got a vaccine. But we're not going to give it to the state of New York because their governor don't want it. What? What do you mean you not going to give it to you? Because he has to say, I want it. If the state say, I don't want it, you can't. the federal don't, everybody keeps thinking that the federal is up here. These damn local laws, these locals and state laws are they the ones I can't, for instance, if I got my firearm, I can't go into Jersey. I can have my concealed weapons permit in PA. But the minute I go into Jersey with my
They
gun,
go to DC.
that's 3 years. You going into New York?
That's
3 years.
because you're going to.
Because you're going into a different
That's
jurisdiction.
because you're going to a different country.
Yeah.
You're going to a different country.
Yeah, like Jerome said, you're going into a different country, and often we look at it, we say, hey, welcome to the United States. These states ain't united. Now, you going basically into a different country, like Jerome said. Now, I'm speaking from my experience from the dope boy level again, but in South Carolina, and I think it's one other state, they penalize you in South Carolina as if you're trafficking from state to state. So if you're selling drugs in Virginia and you're from South Carolina, you're considered trafficking from every state to get back, to your home, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, in South Carolina, what they do is the county set up. So if you go from county to county, they issue you this trafficking charge within your state. You know what I'm saying? South Carolina is another state that does this. I can't remember who it was when I was going through it. I was studying this. It's another state that does this. So South Carolina might be the only one now. I think the other one may have changed the law.
Virginia laws is crazy.
Right. So what you're doing in South Carolina, what happens is going from county to county is like almost going to another country, supposedly in the so-called drug world. So you're penalized with kingpin drug charges in your own state as if you're trafficking federally. You know what I mean? So I'm saying that to say that within the state, that state can make their own laws to mimic federal law or create their own. So we always consider this to be United States. You go to another state, you're in a different country with whole new rules. You can't even spit on the sidewalk. In another state, you get a ticket or go to jail for it.
Exactly.
That's what they tell you to take your ass back home.
One law in South Carolina says that you actually can take your wife to the church steps or court steps and beat her.
Right.
The fuck?
Still on the books.
No, but go ahead, go, John. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead with your point.
Go.
It's interesting. Think about it like this when we talk about, and when I say they're like 50 different countries, right? It's run by a governor. The governor is the king of that country, right?
Fact.
So when do you ever see, like you see the House of Representatives, you see the Congress, and you see these legislators, where's the building where all the governors come to? Think about that. They don't have to because they run their own joint.
Right.
This is North Carolina. I'm gonna do what's best for North Carolina. We'll send representatives because we agreed in the Constitution that we would do that. But other than that, I run this state.
We united under one flag, basically.
We seen that. We actually seen that too in the George Floyd. I mean, I'm thinking of George Floyd. I think it was like Portland. In Portland, what happened when they sent the armed forces there, and that governor was like, "Y'all get out of here." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We don't want you here in my state.
Right.
Because he didn't ask for it, you cannot send it there. So people need to. They're showing you right there in front of you. They're showing you in front of you that the governor, like again, I'm in PA. He was locking out everything, and they say that's unconstitutional. So that's why everything has to go to the Supreme Court. You have to get out of state level, and then you have to go federal level. So it's levels to this game, but basically,
of course,
this after listening to 13, 14, 15 Amendment, they wanted us to be citizens because they wanted us to be servants to them, and we do it. I mean, I do it every day. Not even
think about it like this, B. So they give you the right to vote, right? But they make you vote for a certain party. So your power is controlled. Even you don't understand the power that you have, right?
Phew,
I give
boy,
you a
you
for
getting-
example.
boy, you
I
burning
give
something.
you I give you a for example of the power you got, right? And when I say you, I'm talking about us, right?
Mhm.
So they won Michigan, right? That was because of Detroit. So they won Georgia, or got close to. Did they win Georgia? Won Georgia.
Today
Why?
they said they projected, but
Oh,
that's a whole
Because
different story right there.
Atlanta, right?
Mhm.
PA. Why?
Philly.
Philadelphia, right? So I mean, look at all these places that they won. Why? It's because that's where the urban vote is. And so that's what we don't understand when they talk about how important we are. We don't understand that we control the urban regions of all of these states.
Actually, we control the election.
That's what I'm saying. But we don't understand how to use the power of that. How do we use it to our advantage? That's what we don't go ahead.
I guess, when, Dr. King did his march and, the Civil Rights Act of 1965 was only for protection. We already had the right to vote. It was only to protect us. And,
Right.
they constantly keep putting rules in on top of rules. So we read you the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which brought into the 15th Amendment, 13, 14, 15 Amendment, and then we showed you the Civil Rights Act of 1875 as another form of protection. And then we go all the way to, I mean, it's still Civil Rights Act. Everybody keep thinking about the last Civil Rights Act of 1960.
But I think
64, my bad.
when they're doing those civil rights,
Mhm.
when they're doing those civil rights, I think we get confused that they actually giving you rights. You know what I'm saying? That's how we look at it. We think we're getting rights
Get
when you
permission
just
slip.
because the name of it Civil Rights Act. But but that thing that happened in 65, it was to take away like the poll taxes, to take away the grandfather-in-law, all
That's
these
another form of
the
protecting your
IQ
right to
tests,
vote.
all these things, like you said. Exactly. It just let you come and vote. That's all it was about. It was to protect you so you can go. That's why they were hanging people. When they hung them, this nigga voted. To keep you away because you always had the right to vote.
Yeah.
You got the power.
Look, you were speaking about the ratification of that in 65. I'm looking at this right here, and this might be a little off, but it's still on.
Yeah.
In 69, the courts ruled that the Privacy Act, which is the clause in the 14th Amendment, that the Privacy Act was amendment so that a person would have the right to possess and view pornography in his own home.
The Privacy Act.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So
now I'm gonna tell you why. I think it was in the 1960s. I can't think of the woman's name. It was an elderly woman. Was it Wesley? Wesley versus the United States. Anyway, they had a false warrant and they broke into a house, and what they collected in her house was pornography, and it was an old woman, and they used that against her in court. And that's why they come up with that protection on that, because she I don't know what she had, what kind of pornography she had, but but if they take an old woman to court about it, she must have been a freak.
But a lot of people got to understand that shit, and we don't.
Yeah.
So we out here marching, not understanding why we marching.
Right.
George Bush signed some laws too that invaded your Privacy Act laws.
Oh yeah. But they were protecting you.
Right.
Think about it now, man. If, pornography is so crazy that, you know, it's okay to watch child porn. Like what? Why? What?
Nah,
Why?
that's crazy.
Some people are sick, and it's it's gonna be legalized before you know it. It's either if it's not already. But I mean,
I was
Nah,
about
it's
to
not.
say, it's about already legalized because they got all these. You know, we got an outcry where they found the Epstein island or whatever, right? And they got, you know, and I remember when I was in college, and one of the main problems in foreign countries is people having kids just to sell them off into sex slave stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a
I
major
would.
problem. It's just hitting home now, you know what I mean? And so now you got people here in America, Joe Biden, who they say is one of them, Hillary Clinton, all these people, you know, they got islands right next to Epstein Island, you know. It's like a neighbor. You don't know what your neighbor, you know what your neighbor got going on over there. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of stuff is about to hit the fan. Well, no, it's already hit the fan. What's happening is they're covering it up and brushing it to the side, and so it's the straw man fallacy.
wait a minute,
To
wait a minute.
where, you know,
It was Trump
right?
was exposing a lot of that shit but like you said, underground,
Yeah,
underground.
it's the straw man fallacy to where they make you look at this over here while you ain't paying attention to that over there. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, the
Because
whole
you don't want
time,
to show
you
the
know,
ugly America.
right. So they'll throw up this issue and everybody's all on this issue. By the whole time, they taking kids and putting them in vans and shipping them different places. And, you know, people are not even in uproar about this.
Hey,
But you let them do that to some dogs.
hey. So think about
You let them do that to some
right.
dogs.
No. You right, and they go blow the country up. But here's the thing. So check this out. So on the border, they stopping people, putting people in cages, putting children in cages. Right. A lot of these children are not getting back to their parents. Where are these children being taken to?
Epstein.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And that's right. And that's the media showing it every
yeah.
day. And they still
I remember seeing like they got over 4,000 kids missing.
right. How do you lose kids? You know, I can understand, you know, you lost your keys or something, you know. How you lose 3,000 children? What?
Right. I mean,
That's
even
crazy.
even on life, Hopping Bob counted as rocks, boss. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. Yeah, come on, man.
yeah, man, that's horrible, man, and it's a reflection. It's a reflection to us living here in America, not only to us as Black people who are not treated as citizens, but it's just a reflection to humans in general. You know what I'm saying? The Privacy Act is basically a human right. You know what I'm saying? It's a fundamental right, and our rights to be human are violated by how they play us as if we're so idiotic, and it permeates through society. You know, even when you go places and you're approached, you're looked at as the dumb nigga. You know what I'm saying? We can't
Right.
even get, even in jobs we work at. You know, we know how to run the whole organization. You know what I'm saying? But your boss man ain't gonna let you run up and run everything. You know what I mean? Because it's all about them keeping their foot on our neck. You know what I mean? So even though you might have the skill set and the know-how, they're never gonna give you that appreciation. They're never gonna give you that. You know what I'm saying?
But
And a fundamental. What's that? Excuse me.
is that not because psychologically everybody thinks that we're inferior? We think it, they think it, and
Yeah.
we perpetuate that through jobs, through television, through life. You know, until we all can sit down and say we're all human, you know, it's not going to change because this country, the media, why do you think we're viewed in a certain light all the time? It's to
No matter what.
perpetuate their psychological thought, huh?
No
You
matter
know, that's why, like, if you see a riot, it's a peaceful protest when they're white, and it's a out of control mob of animals when they black, and they can be doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's black people. It's an insurrection.
Right, it's an insurrection.
Looking cool, they about to throw.
I can't believe they so disrespectful.
Hey,
You know
yo,
the thing.
that's one thing in the 14th. That's one thing in the 14th Amendment too. If you build up let's say you build up wealth, you build up a following, and everything you build up in support in going in support against the government. Once you're brought into court and tried for it, they take everything you've gained and give it to the state.
Right, right.
So you got a rebellious force, a rebellious group of people that want to band against the government. Once they see your insurrection, and they gonna charge you for it, and everybody that's charged, anything that you've gained, all of the money you collected, everything, they take and confiscate that, and there's a violation, and the state gets to keep it.
Right.
everybody
Right.
needs to understand is we marching at no more while we marching. Yeah, I know we marching to be equalities because we keep looking at civil rights. Nobody never, like you say, we should be marching for human rights. Because if you treat me as a human, then all of a sudden this whole capitalist system will fall. It will fall.
Hey, we should be marching for shit.
Say
We
what?
should be marching for shit. We should be marching for shit. Half the motherfuckers out there marching don't even know what they're marching for. They just out there to be doing something. You know what I'm saying? People don't be knowing the real cause and that. Marching ain't did shit. Motherfuckers been marching since Martin Luther King, all that time. Marching ain't did nothing but get people into an area to where they could be slaughtered.
Right. True. True that. I mean, the only thing that's going to change anything, how did you get tricked in that position? Because you signed a treaty, right? So until you learn how to come to the table and sign with the pen, nothing's ever going to change. You know, that's where your rights was taken away with a pen.
Right.
The only way your rights are going to be given back is with a pen.
Right.
You gotta have the mental fortitude to understand that you're supposed to be at the table. You know, that's the whole. The biggest thing the first thing that even got me into this way of life when I was younger was the mindset and looking at our people and understanding that we think differently than everybody else. How we look at ourselves differently than everybody else. You know, and that's what's causing the schism in our mind, is because we look in the mirror and know that we're intelligent, but we have to live our life in a place that treats us inferior. And so that begins to creep into your head, and that's what you battle with every day. That's why so many Black people have fight with depression. It's because you got this constant battle of what they say you are and what you see you are.
And we always trying to please and not be I'm a perfect example because I have to deal with it at work because being the only Black dude in my crew. They want me to be what they want me to be, and I'm like, dude, I don't follow y'all. I'm not a follower.
You don't have to.
Because, you know, I got my boss to be like, oh, why you always by yourself? You know, I'm like, dude, I'm a lone wolf. I don't mind being by myself because I'm good. I can't follow a crowd. Follow a crowd gets you caught up in something you can't get yourself out of.
Hey, yo, you just made me, you just clicked back on some information I had read when I had studied up on. And this actually goes in accordance to what we were speaking about of how each state has their own laws.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the clauses in the 14th Amendment, in the privacy amendment, is false light. false light. That's one of the statutes in your privacy rights. So in the privacy laws, let's say depending on the state, you can pursue a false light lawsuit against someone. If and states can actually make these allegations against other states. So if South Carolina puts North Carolina in a false light by advertising negatively, there's a lawsuit they can go to. You know what I'm saying? Even on a person-to-person claim,
Defamation of character.
It's not recognized as much, but it's also a lot of people try to use it because it personally, if somebody casts a false light on you, you can sue them.
Yeah, defamation of character.
Defamation of your character, and that falls under the 14th Amendment of your definition of false light.
Okay. All right, fellas. I appreciate this. I'm gonna have to shut this down, man, because I gotta go to work in the morning.
Yeah, me too.
So I appreciate y'all being on. I appreciate everybody listening. I hope some people got some insight on what we are as American citizens. Oh, my bad. Not American citizens, citizens of the United States. I gotta make sure I say that, because if we were citizens to America or citizens to this land, it'd be a whole different picture, a whole different ball game, because respect will be at the utmost. But I appreciate Tut. Appreciate you, bro. You taking the time out to do your thing, man. Appreciate
No problem,
Brother
man.
Jerome.
I go all out for my peoples, man. That's just me.
So I'm getting my last words out, but I appreciate everybody being on. Thank y'all for putting y'all insight on this. I had a ton of stuff, but then I learned a lot more stuff just being around y'all. I appreciate it. Again, this is that 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, Civil Rights Act of 1866, 1875. I mean, you just keep going to 1964 and 65. But I appreciate y'all brothers being on, man. Tut, give me your last words, man.
As always, man, King Tut representing the South, man. I always tell, hey, study, do your due diligence, man. What we need to do, they ratify amendments in the Constitution. What we need to do as people is learn to ratify each other. You know what I'm saying? To where your word is your bond, and we can give a formal consent on another person's actions and words, to where we can unify and get a better understanding of the world in itself and each other. Peace.
Jerome, knock it out the park for us, man.
No doubt. Man, this is a lot. You know what I'm saying? 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, also known as the Reconstruction Amendments. Go back and study them. There's a lot of information put out today, a lot of good stuff. To me, I never understood why I needed somebody else to tell me that I'm a human. Why I need somebody else to tell me that I'm a person. I've never need that kind of vindication from anybody outside of myself. I look in the mirror and see what I am every day. We got to start looking in the mirror, believing in what we see. And when you see it, and then you look in Tut's face, you look in Brian's face, you see the same thing, believe in each other. Keep each other strong, man. That's the only way we're going to go forward, is we have to believe in each other and understand that things are changed by changing it. Not by praying it. You can't pray it away. You can't hope it away. You can't wish it away. You got to change it. So if you want your situation to change, we got to change it. So that means we got to study these laws. We got to start putting pen to paper. We got to start holding people accountable that you gave your representative vote to. Until those things happen, man, we'll just be on here every day talking about, I wish things were better. But
wait for somebody to see a pig fly.
right, no doubt. But as always, man, it's always good to be on here with these brothers, man. Man, y'all bring me strength just listening to you, hearing the confidence and strength in y'all voice, man. You know, I love that.
Likewise.
I guess we'll do it again,
That's why we're the three-headed monsters.
no doubt.
Three. There's three of us, and we put together to form Voltron.
369. 369 to the supreme beings we all be.
Hey, check out our podcast on YouTube under Three-Headed Monsters, the Three-Headed Anubius. We knowledge bearers, and that's what we're trying to be. So peace out, y'all.
Peace.